everybody, and welcome to Let's Look at Ace's Wild Manic Brawling Action. That is a subtitle or a description that is fairly accurate when we talk about Ace's Wild. This is a 2D beat-em-up that feels kind of unlike 2D beat-em-ups that have been popular recently. This doesn't feel like a foul play. This does not feel like a Castle Crashers. This is much more like Dragon Ball Z kind of turned into a 2D action platformer, or to compare it to something a little bit more, within the same medium. Something like Devil May Cry or DMC or Bayonetta, transformed into a 2D brawler. It is goddamn fun, and if you don't realize why yet, you will as soon as we get in here. So I'm gonna play as Ace Wilder. I put about an hour into this game so far, which has allowed me to beat the first two levels. This is an exceptionally difficult game as well. In addition to just being goddamn fluid and fun and beautiful was like the first thing that I noticed. I apologize if I sound like I'm gushing, I try to stay objective as much as possible, but basically immediately from picking up Ace's Wild, I was like, look at those fucking Technicolor sparks, man. Once we kill these guys, I will explain just what the heck is going on, because this game moves pretty quickly, and it's going to be a game that's difficult for me to talk about as I play it. So a lot of my commentary, I'm pretty sure, is just going to be me being like, oh, boom, bang, like I did a really good job. So we're playing as I think his name is actually Ace Wild here, and basically very simple kind of controls here. We have the ability to jump. We can jump into the air if we so choose as well. We can also wall jump. We have light attacks executed by the X button on the Xbox 360 controller, heavy attacks with the Y button. We can also dash, as you can, well, maybe I can't do it yet. Oh, there we go. You just got to be on the ground, I guess, to start it, or you got to choose the direction at least. And we also have a dodge, which is the right trigger here. So right trigger dodge, left trigger is our dash. So let me explain how the dodge works. There you go. When the attacks are coming towards you, if you dodge, you will actually just completely avoid taking damage, and this will give you an opening to attack the enemy. And this is what I mean when I say that it's really fluid in the same kind of sense that a Bayonetta or a DMC or a Metal Gear Rising was. Because you spend a lot of your time, basically you combo the shit out of an enemy, and then as soon as they start to attack you, you counter it. In a weird way, it's kind of like exactly the problem that I had with Assassin's Creed 4 when I covered that in my video. I was like, it's way too easy to just, just take your time, be patient, and then counter an enemy and then combo them to death right afterwards. But where it works in this game, and it didn't really work in Assassin's Creed 4 in my opinion, is that there's just a staggering amount of enemies and a staggering amount of projectiles and just nonsense that gets thrown at you consistently. That it makes it a lot of fun because you're constantly almost like playing a rhythm game, paying attention, looking for enemy patterns, listening for audio cues, and then just hitting the right trigger or the dodge button if you're using the PC controls whenever necessary, and then just kind of fluidly creating your own recipe of combat destruction, if that makes any sense at all. I should point out, by the way, well, I am just, to a certain extent button mashing here, but again, it's not, it's button mashing with a purpose because you're constantly paying attention to when you need to dodge or your ass will get killed. This is actually a very, very difficult game. We're gonna fight Doge first here, just give me a second. I should mention this is not on Steam, but it bloody well should be. I've become so passionate about this that I've resorted to, cultural dialects which are not at all similar to my own. So go vote for this on Greenlight if you are interested at all in what you've seen, even if you maybe are not necessarily 100% interested in picking it up for yourself. I can assure you that this is more deserving of being Greenlight than a lot of the titles that have gotten through Greenlight that I have played recently, and it's a goddamn travesty that this has been on there for a few months and it's not been Greenlight. This is, it's done, for one, which puts it ahead of the vast majority of Greenlight games that just come out on early access in various states of doneness, I guess you could say, or not doneness. But beyond that, it's just the most satisfying beat-em-up I've played in a long time. I know, I called Foul Play, the best beat-em-up since Castle Crashers. I still stand by that. I'm not saying this is better or worse than Foul Play. This is just a different experience, and one that, truth be told, I find a little bit more engaging on a single-player level, simply because of the fluidity of combat. And did I mention that this looks fucking gorgeous? It looks really goddamn good. We'll just get this dog killed for a second here. He's gonna come up, and we should be able... Oh, I'm dodging so poorly. One thing I like about the game, in addition to the fact that it's super difficult, is that it's never really frustrating. It's not 100% true. There have been times when I've been frustrated playing it, but it's not like a Super Nintendo or arcade-style beat-em-up here where, if you die enough times, you just stop being able to continue. The way that it actually works... Dodge through those. Oh, I fucked that one up. But the way that it actually works is that you can basically continue to play ad infinitum, but the game gets excruciatingly difficult as time goes on. So, you're never going to lose all of your progress, at least as far as I can tell. I've died 20 times on the same boss before. But still, that doesn't mean that the game is easy. It does mean that if you invest like enough time in it without really improving yourself, maybe you can still succeed, but that's going to be a very brute force way of doing it that I would not necessarily recommend. Hopefully I can get through this first level a little bit faster than I did last time. I have very, very few complaints about Aces Wild, and again, this is why it kind of astonishes me that this has not actually come out and is still kind of struggling with its Greenlight campaign. Oh, watch out for the guy from Persona 4. It's remarkable to me that this is struggling a little bit in its Greenlight campaign. I hope that I'm not misrepresenting it or, you know, making it sound like it's maybe more of a dramatic thing than it actually is. I'm gonna die here, almost certainly. Just dodge through that. Because it's so good, and I have to imagine that anybody who's played it has been like, this deserves to be on Steam, and it really does. So we died. We'll just come back on exactly the same screen here. The music also really amazing. I apologize if it sounds like my objectivity has been, you know, compromised by the fact that I'm just constantly gushing here. But seriously, from like the first 5 minutes of this game, I was like, this is totally awesome. It almost feels more like, less like a Castle Crashers or a Foul Play or, you know, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World or something like that, and more almost like a Contra that only has melee combat. So instead of just imagining this like enemies constantly like throw at you and you just like smash on the button until they die and you get your friends together and it's a good time, this really strikes me more as almost like a Contra style game, or like Intrusion 2, where it's just goddamn insanity on the screen at all times, and then you fight your way through it. It requires some skill, of course. As mentioned, it's difficult, but a lot of fun nonetheless. So the level's relatively short, which is true of the genre, but it's a good thing, because typically, at least in my sight reads so far, I find myself getting shit on by the bosses. So the fact that the levels are short is actually alright, because then, you know, maybe it takes me 5 minutes to get through the kind of like standard enemies, and then when I go to the boss, it takes me like 15 to 20 minutes to get through the boss. So now that I know the patterns for the boss, it's a game that definitely rewards pattern recognition. And again, this is where it kind of contrasts with something like Castle Crashers specifically. You don't, in Castle Crashers, yes, enemies and bosses have patterns and it pays to recognize them, but a lot of those boss fights do kind of feel like, okay, just, you know, beat on him as hard as you can, and then eventually, you know, it's like a war of attrition, they're gonna die. You will die a lot more often if you try that in Aces Wild. This is a game where it's extremely punishing, and on your boss fights, you can only afford to make so many mistakes before you will find yourself in a very, very difficult position. So I believe we may actually be closing in on our boss fight now. You know you're in for a treat, or you know you're in for some danger when the music kind of fades away. Now, this is actually just our first mini-boss here. You know you're in for a treat when the music fades away, and then you're like, oh shit, it's about to get real. Because it switches to the boss theme, which is obviously more frenetic, and anyway. I think I mentioned this already, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it, so why don't we just make doubly sure here. Music, absolutely fantastic. The gameplay of the game is a strong suit for sure as well, but also the art looks really, really good. It's really flashy, and it doesn't look as generic and kind of 2.5D as a lot of beat-em-ups do these days. Mind you, you know, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game release that tied into the movie, I thought that looked really good as well. But, you know, a lot of the beat-em-ups these days have kind of the tendency to evoke similar styles, and this is much more of a kind of technological or technicolor marvel, if you will. Not to sound overly dramatic, I just think it looks very good. So let's beat the pulp out of this guy. You may be wondering, like, what the heck is going on up there at the top of the screen. I honestly don't 100% know. The panic meter is something that fills up as we do damage and have damage dealt to us, as far as I can tell, anyway. And this, I believe, causes us to, well, not only get that sweet little, like, fiery afterglow behind us here, but also allows us the opportunity to deal quicker damage or more damage, I believe. At least that's how I've seen it so far. Or I'm basing my strategy on a fallacy, because mostly, whenever you die, your meter starts back at 0. I try to build that up as soon as possible. Let's murder this guy here. It's really neat, too, because you can also get involved in some aerial combat a lot of the time. There are parts of the game where there's just, like, lava underneath you or, you know, spikes underneath you, and essentially, you just have to keep consistently fighting in the air. So you, like, kill an enemy, then do, like, an air jump combo over to this other enemy, keep attacking upwards, and, you know, you can continue Dragon Ball Z-ing yourself up in the air as you do all this stuff. It's real satisfying is what I'm trying to say, and it's not just constantly being on the floor and beating on enemies. So I think we have a few more... Oh! The music has started to fade away in classic retro style. This means we should be facing our boss soon. And of course, our boss is Doge, basically. Now, let me see if I remember his patterns. It was a little bit earlier today when I did this. Bosses, at least so far, have all... Oh, I'm definitely gonna die once in this boss fight. There's no question about that. He's got a P laser, and I did not get hit by it there. Good. So that was just a well-timed dodge. Oh, it's so bad. Of me, I should say. But in the, you know, kind of like the early part of this level, you can get away with button mashing. Against the bosses, it's very much about pattern recognition and learning the attacks that your actual enemy has. And it's not as forgiving as when you're just fighting mobs, where you can basically just mash on the X and Y button and make some good things happen. So we're going to break his guard. And then he's going to do some attacks here. I'm going to just go over the basic attacks that he has. So he has like the P laser, as you can see. If we, I didn't dodge that effectively. If you don't dodge it, sometimes he'll be able to do a combo follow-up in the air. He also has fireballs that he shoots out of his mouth. He has that like lunging attack. There's the fireballs. Oh, I'm getting pooped on here. And he has this kind of drill attack as well, where he drills into the ground, which can do damage, and then he drills out of the ground, which can do damage as well. The P laser requires the most finesse with the timing, I would say. So after we do some damage to him, you know, the bosses do have phases, much like the moon. I'm going to lose this one again. Don't be surprised if I fail this one 5 or 6 times, by the way. It's not as easy as it looks. Yeah, bosses have multiple phases here. This one allows the boss to kind of spawn some little companions that he can use to do some damage and distract me as well, which takes my focus away from doing damage where it counts, I guess. Come on, doggy. I could have been hit there. Get the heck out of here. So this did literally take me maybe 15 minutes to beat the first time, but I'm hoping that because I have learned all the patterns, I should be in a much better position to avoid it now. But largely, you know, because you're talking at the same time, it can be a little difficult. So he's going to do the lunge attack. The lunge attack is really the bread and butter, and is also the easiest attack to dodge by far. Dodge, doge, whatever. Once he starts sending out like multiple dogs, like it starts with just like one tiny companion that is annoying to deal with, and eventually, oh, did I get hit there? Eventually, there will be multiples, which will be extremely difficult to avoid. But they are relatively easy to kill when they come out. You just have to kind of keep your wits about you so you actually can kill them. So that's an example of the combat being super fluid there. I dodged the fireballs, did a little bit of a combo against him. Oh, I'm going to get hit nastily here. And then when the fireballs bounced off the wall and came back to hit me, I dodged again, and I actually managed to dodge that laser as well. So the game really feels at its strongest when you're like in the zone, if that makes sense. You get into that flow state, almost like a Rock Band or something like that, where oh, I'm being pooped on here. Yeah, you get into that flow state where you're like attack, 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 and then you see like an enemy glow red, which means they're about to attack you soon. We may actually win on this one, which would be very surprising. Oh no, laser! I dodged it, thankfully. But I still got killed. That was really punishing. I thought I performed pretty well there, but let's try it again. This is indicative of the norm when I play Aces Wild. Yeah, okay, so again, to finish this point, now that I have a chance to kind of collect myself, you do like attack, 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 and then an enemy glows red, so just instinctively you kind of hit the right trigger, so you dodge, and you dodge perfectly. Let's get ready to dodge perfectly. There we go. And then you just kind of continue going with it, and when you can keep this going for 15, 20, 30 seconds at a time, it's really, really satisfying how you just feel like, you know, you feel like you're Goku or something like that. A few people have described this game when I was thinking about playing it as kind of like, you know, Dragon Ball Z inspired, or not inspired, but morphed into a 2D kind of brawler or beat 'em up. And absolutely, I think that comparison is fairly apt. It really does feel like that, and it really does feel more like a Bayonetta or a DMC or something like that than it does like a lot of its genre contemporaries. At least its genre contemporaries now. And it definitely, like, even though this is retro inspired, you can compare this to like you know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time, and you can see that this is kind of its own unique thing as well. You know, there's something to be said for nostalgia, of course, but by this, oh, I think I got hit by the laser there. But by the same token, this kind of strikes out on its own kind of unique direction, which is super awesome. When was the last time I played a beat 'em up that I would consider like fresh? I don't know, it's been a while. As much as I liked Foul Play, I certainly would not say that Foul Play is the freshest game I've ever played in a long time. It's got a kind of a cool combo system, I thought, and the co-op was nice. But it didn't necessarily excite me to be like, oh, this is, you know, it's a beat 'em up. There's nothing wrong with that. I got killed again. Let's try this again. What I'm saying is that I think Aces Wild is totally, absolutely goddamn excellent. I probably should not have taken damage right off the bat there. And even though I'm bad at it, I'm not mad because I'm bad, because it's just really, it's got a sense of humor, it's fun to look at, it's even more fun to play, and it's fun to listen to as well. The music is just really, really good. In any, like, it boggles my mind, I know I've mentioned this many times, it boggles my mind that this is not getting through Greenlight. just Greenlight it. You can also purchase it for yourself if you are interested right now, which again, if I would encourage you to do so, this is totally awesome. If you liked a contemporary of this game, and it's gonna sound weird because they could not be like more dissimilar from kind of like a speed or a pacing standpoint, but it reminds me a little bit of Volgar in that, you know, it's frustrating to die so much. Oh, I totally got hit there. It's frustrating to die so much, but it's not frustrating because it's still so satisfying, and every death really does feel like your fault. Very few times have I died in Aces Wild and been like, oh, the game's unfair. It's always been like, oh, well, I got too wrapped up in doing like a shitty combo, and I didn't dodge the enemy's attack, and then he kind of comboed me and took 1/3 of my remaining health away, and that's what ended up killing me here. Patience is indeed a virtue in this game, despite the fact that might surprise you based on the speed at which things seem to be moving. Anyway, Aces Wild, super cool. Check the video description for all the relevant links to pick this up for yourself. I would encourage you to do so, because this game is bitchin'. And I'm not just saying that because there may or may not be a female dog on the screen right now. Please tell me that I am going to actually survive here. We have the 3 Huskies are here. No! Get out of here! Go terrorize the mailman, please. I have very little health left, but I think this combo may actually do it. Oh! Oh, okay, that was a tight dodge, but I managed to succeed. Holy shit. Surprisingly difficult. And of course, the relief music after you finish. So that was me doing the best that I possibly could after already beating that level. It still took us 12 minutes here. We got an S grade. Maybe a little bit lenient with the, you know, the letter grades. We'll play a little bit more of the second level here. I'm not going to play all the way through to the boss, but it's a good idea to show off some of the new enemies because there are some kind of cool enemy designs that will come up here. The only other complaint that I would levy against the game, well, 2 complaints. Occasionally, there are spots where it gets a little framey. It happens mostly due to, like, interactions with other programs I've seen. Like, whenever Nick or Josh messages me on Skype, then it gets a little bit framey for a bit. You know, I'm recording right now, and I don't consider it very framey at all. But occasionally it has flared up a little bit. Nowhere near as badly as Megabyte Punch did, though. And additionally, you know, it suffers from the same kind of complaint that you could levy against most games in this genre, and that's, there are times when it gets a little bit repetitive, just constantly mashing the button against the same enemies over and over. But what really breaks this up is the fact that the levels are short, and the boss fights actually require you to focus as opposed to just mashing buttons. So this makes it not immune, but it does alleviate some of the concerns that normally come up when you're playing a game in this genre. And also the fact that they're constantly introducing new enemy types works really well too. We may or may not see it, but within this level there are like Gundam type characters that shoot missiles and miniguns at us that we have to dodge through, and we can, you know, direct the missiles to hit other enemies and destroy parts of the landscape if we want to. It's just a really, really well executed game, and you know, sometimes I play a game and I'm like, oh, you know, you're gonna have to take my word for it because it's kind of hard to show off. I think Aces Wild, just by watching it, you can be like, okay, I understand why this is awesome and why I may be into it if I'm into this kind of game. So certainly what you see is what you get, but it also, you know, from a control standpoint, obviously the controls are some of the most important aspects of a game like this, where execution is so important. Controls work absolutely fine. I've never had any woes with them whatsoever. In fact, the controls work so well that I didn't even think to mention them in the video until the end. I was like, wait, don't people care about controls in like a 2D beat 'em up that's supposedly exceptionally difficult? Yes, they do, but you know, they've never given me a reason to think about them, which I think is, you know, better. I don't remember what I was going to say there. Like, neither seen nor heard is the best, but that's not really a phrase that people use in the English language. Maybe we'll see the Gundams when we come through here. I can't remember. Yes, we do. Okay, so you can see that I'm being locked onto by these drones. Not really Gundams, I guess. Now that I look at it, they're kind of like 343 guilty sparking up here. Anyway, we're just going to destroy this one, and maybe we won't even finish with this level. I'll instead just head back to the main menu. But again, this is Aces Wild. Check the video description. At the very least, go vote for this on Greenlight if you trust my opinion, because this deserves to be on Steam. It deserves to get kind of wider recognition and wider distribution for sure. If you're the kind of person who doesn't care if a game is on Steam or not yet, and you just care about the quality of the game, consider checking out the link in the video description to pick this up on the game store page or website or from Humble itself. Aces Wild is awesome. One of the best beat-em-ups I've played in a long time, and totally unique. If you're a big fan of combo-based games like DMC, Bayonetta, and you're not concerned about a game that is going to kick your ass up and down, then I think you can have an awful lot of fun with Aces Wild. This is a game that I would consider very good. 2 thumbs up from me. Again, check the links in the video description below to go support Aces Wild on Greenlight for free or by purchasing it for yourself. I actually don't know how much it is, so if it's $100, then I apologize. But in any case, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to click the like button. It does help me out a great deal. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more first impressions like this in the future. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.